Welcome to This Team is Killing Us, a podcast about what the Carolina Panthers do to good people. She is Lauren Brownlow. I am Demetri and Lauren, there's a lot killing me right now. As I'm sure there's a lot killing everybody in the U.S. as it relates to relations with other countries. But did you see this expose? And this will actually flow right into our first topic today. Did you see this story on The Athletic about how the NFL very quietly is freaked out that all of the work they have done to build a Canadian fan base is just over now?
No, I didn't see this.
They start out by talking to a guy who owns a bunch of businesses in Ontario, but one of them is like a sports travel agency kind of thing. And he talked about how it used to be a no-brainer that when the Bills were playing another one of the cities that touches Canada in some way, so think like the Lions, right? It was a no-brainer that he could go ahead and book 4 56-passenger buses for that trip and sell them all out. And now, he said this year, he put up the advertisement and was bombarded with what a anti-Canadian treasonous sort of action it is to even consider taking this trip this year. And then it sort of expands out that, like, yeah, a lot of travel operators that take Canadians to Buffalo, to Detroit, to Minnesota, for whatever, to see whatever NFL team it is they want to see. That's just not the surefire thing it used to be, or at least for this season, it will not be the surefire thing it used to be.
Yeah, I was going to say, there's probably a lot of businesses that do anything with anyone from another country that are feeling the impacts because, I don't even think this is political to say, like, why would you come here if you're from another country? Like, why would you risk that? I wouldn't.
Yeah. All right, so I bring that up not just, I mean, look, if you know Lauren and I, we sort of wear our feelings on a lot of stuff on our sleeve, so that shouldn't surprise you the way we feel, but I don't bring it up just for political reasons. I bring it up because I want to talk about Chuba Hubbard and just how important I think his Canadian identity is to him. And we talked about this in like a couple of weeks ago, right? About
with the flag football. Yeah.
Right. Him wanting to lead Team Canada flag football, him making a really big push to get NFL teams to, at least, even though Chuba himself played at Oklahoma State, he has apparently been very active in getting NFL teams to at least recognize that there are good, well-established, well-run college football programs in Canada. And even if you aren't drafting these guys, at least bring them in to a camp. Apparently, he's from Edmonton. So I know the University of Calgary has a really well-respected football team. I wonder if that, being in Alberta is part of it. I'm not sure. But I find it very interesting for him to have that kind of passion for connecting his employer and his home country. And boy, is that just not doable right now.
Yeah, probably not. I mean, and that's the other thing. I mean, it's not even just like I'd be scared to come here if I were from another country, but it's also like, yeah, what does that represent to you? I mean, and people, I know this is going to rock some worlds, but people from other countries have pride in where they're from too. Even if they do end up coming here for like what they view, what they think would be like a better opportunity for their family in many cases. Like, that doesn't mean they're still not proud of like where they're from and their culture. And like, that doesn't mean that they want to be like another state in our union. They want to be their own country and have sovereignty. And so like, I think to them, it represents something bigger. And there are people that I know, even in the US, for instance, that like, to be fair, this was stuff like the NFL did, but I mean, sometimes your sports can get impacted by things that are like outside of the sport. I mean, there have definitely been moments for me that I'm like, in the last like decade plus that have soured me on my relationship with the league as a whole, in terms of like how enthusiastic I am about it and whatever, because of like the way they've treated women and things like that. And like some of those domestic violence / assault cases, violence against women, I'm not with it. And it's like, so, I mean, I think like but a lot of times people don't let their like personal feelings and their sports feelings cross over as much. I think sometimes we're just like, all right, we'll just swallow it and keep moving on. But I think I guess that's becoming increasingly harder.
I think that if you are someone like Chuba Hubbard, and like he is really outspoken about, I'm not the only Canadian in this league. I think that you can understand as the NFL spreads its global footprint, like when it was just London or just England, and then it included Ireland, as long as it was just one of those places where the East Coast is a 5-hour flight away, right? You could fly there as quickly as you could fly from New York to LA. That was one thing. But now you watch the global footprint expand and expand and expand, and you recognize, I think if you are Chuba Hubbard, if you are, I mean, I can't think of other Canadians like off the top of my head, Jesse Palmer. I think you see.
He is?
Yeah.
See, and that's what ends up happening a lot when we find out people are Canadian. We'll be like, oh, I just thought you were from like North Dakota or Minnesota or something.
Yeah. I think you see any potential for even just a team in Toronto slipping away, right? And it was such a no-brainer for so long when the Bills were in limbo, or really after LA got teams, when anybody was in limbo, Toronto was right there.
But I had that thought too, though, because you just mentioned all these cities that have hosted games recently. I mean, I think even Mexico City has had a game since, I mean, maybe Canada's had one in the last few years that I don't remember, but there really haven't been very many, and they're not regular. So, I mean, if the NFL's concerned about it, like, I don't think they've really shown it by like having games there or anything like that. So.
Years ago, remember and when I say years ago, I mean like I was in college. You may have been in high school, because I think this was like 02, 03. The Bills were in some limbo and sold maybe 2 home games to the Sky Dome in Toronto.
I remember that.
Rogers Center.
I was in college, but thank you for assuming.
Maybe it was later than I realized it, because maybe it was a little later than I thought it was. But I do remember not long after the idea had been floated about, well, if Toronto can do this, could Montreal do this? Could Vancouver do this? Too. And the one that was really interesting to me, and it really showed the situation had to be very specific to make Toronto work because of how close it is to Buffalo. Seattle is just as close to Vancouver, and the Seahawks were not having it, right? Like, so, and it makes sense that the Seahawks didn't want it. And, you think about how shaky Bills ownership was for a while.
For sure.
It sucks, because there should be a team like that. To me, if the league is looking for something that is a big city and also logistically works, where we don't have to create this stupid 8 straight home games followed by 8 straight road games model, Toronto is the only option that makes sense.
Also, isn't that the only major sport that doesn't have a Canadian team?
It is. It's the only one of the 4 major leagues. And then also MLS has 3 Canadian teams. And next year, the WNBA will get its first Canadian team. So like all of the majors in those 2 leagues that are like knocking on the door of being majors all have Canadian representation. I want to pivot to Chuba on the field here. Did you see Jeremy Fowler from ESPN surveyed a number of coaches, executives, and scouts, and asked who the best running back in the leagues were, asked them to rank their top 10 running backs in the NFL. Did you see this column by any chance?
I haven't seen the column yet, but I saw that it happened. Yes.
Okay. So Chuba Hubbard did not make the top 10. He did not make the 5 honorable mentions. Okay. He got a single vote from a single person in the entire poll. Now, I do understand that numbers-wise, there are a lot of guys that had a better year than he did, particularly because he didn't play the last 2 games. But I wonder, Lauren, when we talk about the best backs in the league, I'm not going to sit here and argue with you that he is on par with Derrick Henry or Saquon Barkley, but you cannot tell me that he doesn't hold a level of importance to his team that does not make him one of at least the 15 most valuable running backs in the league to his team.
I mean, I guess who do you take out of that group then?
Yeah. Well, so here's one.
It's always the exercise.
Sure. So all 3 of the other primary backs of the NFC South teams ranked ahead of him. Bijan Robinson was like number 3 in this. Alvin Kamara was number 10, and the rookie in Tampa whose name I forget. He was one of the 5 like honorable mentions. Who do you take out? You take out Alvin Kamara, obviously.
Yeah,
like,
I was going to say, as soon as you started the list, I was like, oh, okay. And listen, all respect to Mr. Kamara, who's certainly torn us up and down the field
absolutely,
plenty of times.
But
So,
I think that he is the picture. It's funny, at a time when we are reevaluating that idea of after 28, it all goes south for running backs, and the top 2 running backs in the league now are Saquon Barkley, 29, and Derrick Henry, 31. Like, we're reevaluating that. Alvin Kamara is still the perfect picture of, like, you get your money when you can, because when it goes, it goes.
Yes,
it goes. And I think that Chuba Hubbard is going to get there at some point, and I wonder if Chuba Hubbard is going to get there, I guess, always being talked about as one of the league's best kept secrets, or never being given the respect he deserves. And look, you are more of the Chuba stan than I am. Don't get me wrong, I do like it. I just am a little bit flabbergasted by we are just looking at the numbers and making these votes nature of people who should know more about football than you and I.
Well, let's be realistic. I mean, sometimes it feels like the Panthers, and I have felt this way through their entire franchise history, are like playing. You know how, like, what was that movie? It's like, I don't remember if it's Interstellar or Gravity or one of those space movies where, like, they traveled somewhere so far that, like, essentially if they send a message back, it takes, like, days to get back.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Interstellar, yeah.
Yeah, sometimes it feels like the Panthers are on that kind of delay with people, like, noticing them, where it's like people were still saying going into this year's draft that they should draft a running back. And I was like, are y'all okay?
Well, they did.
Like, but like high, and it was like that they needed one. And I was like, because they don't. And I was like, huh? And so, like, I mean, I think like to love Chuba is to watch him. Right. And because I think, like, especially if you'd watched him, not even last year, but 2 years ago, and how hard he played for a team that sucked so much, and like the futility of that, but like he was the only one who somehow managed to, like, convince himself that no, it's not futile. I'm fighting for every inch out here. Like, my life depends on it.
Yeah.
I think, like, that is something that you can't teach in a running back. And it's something that I think did start to, like, finally blossom into something really good last year when the O-line improved. Right. And so, but that's not something that you can fully understand unless you're watching. And I think with the offense, like, struggling more to start out the season, that didn't help Chuba's numbers either, because a lot of times teams just loaded up on the box and they were like, we're not letting this dude beat us. And so, that probably hurt him a little bit too. But, like, I think it's to watch. You have to watch to know, like, how important he is. They haven't been in prime time. No one has given a shit about them for years, understandably, at this point. At least in the past, I could be mad about it and be like, well, this team is undefeated and y'all don't seem to know anything about them, actually. So what the hell is going on here? Maybe you should watch this team that's undefeated, but, like, I can't be all high and mighty and self-righteous at this point, because, like, what was the point of, like, people? But that, I think, is where some of that is coming from. And it's almost like we have the indie band. Chuba's the indie band, that, like, you don't want someone to say Chuba's popular, because then you'll be like, no, we don't want him getting mainstream. Like, Chuba's ours.
Yeah. It's funny. This reminds me of a story that Joe Ovius told me, having been at the National Sports Media Association banquet, 2 weeks ago, I guess. And Trip Tracy, the color commentator for the Hurricanes, and Anish Shroff, radio play-by-play for the Panthers, split the award for North Carolina Sportscaster of the Year, right? And Ovius went up to Shroff afterwards and said, hey, just want to introduce myself, but also wanted to say that I think you did a masterful job your first year conveying that, yes, we know this team is bad, but they deserve so much better. And excuse me, the way that Ovius tells it, that Shroff sort of responded was, yeah, you kind of had to latch on to whatever positive you had.
Yes.
But,
yes.
But the way he actually said it was, you have to latch on to whatever positive Chuba gave you. And that really was kind of, like, I think, a testament to his value to this franchise. Not just the bad times, like, even when they were winning, right? Like, the game they lost in overtime to Tampa Bay was deflating because it was so unfathomable that Chuba would be the one to fuck up.
Do you know, I was going to say, like, do you know how much I have to love a player for me to, instead of getting angry at him, go, why did it have to be him?
Yes.
That was immediately my first thought. Do you know how much I have to love someone for that to be the case? That I was like, oh no, why was it him?
So I am going to give you another, I guess, list of things. Alex Zeitlo writes the Panthers newsletter for the Charlotte Observer, and he delivered the list of the 4 must-win games for the Panthers this season. So, Lauren, I'm going to run down the 4 games for you and for everybody else before we dive into any thoughts or even what it is that Alex wrote. Okay. They are week 1 at the Jaguars, week 4 at the Patriots, week 10 at home against the Saints, and week 16 at home against the Buccaneers. Before I tell you the theme according to Alex, do you see a theme or does anything jump out to you about those 4 games in particular?
In theory, they're very winnable, and they're to me, what jumped out was that they're technically winnable games against teams that either weren't very good or in some cases supposed to be bad, and that they're all like kind of spread out throughout the season. I know, like, it's off season, so you have to kind of make lists like this. I have
of course.
Context I'd personally add to it, but you go, what was your theme that you know?
Okay, so first of all, Alex said to him, this is all about at this point in the season, winning this game would keep 9-8 in front of you, would keep 9-8 a very real possibility. I think that's fair. I also think that each of these games are measuring sticks in certain ways. You should be 1-for-1 with the Jaguars. That should be on a neutral field. Either team can win that game. And if you can win that game in Jacksonville, that really does tell you everything we've been hearing in the offseason is true. I think that there is a little bit of a roundabout one you have to do with New England, which is New England should be the mess right now that Carolina was in 23, right? I know that they have a quarterback that's been there for a year, but they just tore it all down. And if this team with a year of growth under a young, innovative play caller is not good enough to beat a team that is a mess with a retread head coach coaching a bunch of guys that are not good enough to get him where he's used to being, that should be a win. And then the other 2 are in the division, right? The other thing that jumps out to me is the personalities. You don't want to be the team that Travis Hunter proves, oh, this wasn't just a college football thing against, right? Like, you don't want to be the team that is the poster child for here's the new face of the NFL. And also, and this is my, personal thing, like, how I felt about people whining about not having Sam Howell instead of Bryce Young. Like, you're going to see that again if Drake May balls out against this team. You are going to have the chatter again for people that Carolina should be their home team. I can't help but notice the personality of the teams that are not in the division. I think the teams in the division should always be a measuring stick game. Those should always be must wins in your mind.
Yeah, I mean, I get. Why was my first impulse to be like, I don't know, if you grew up a Carolina football fan, I don't know why you would want your favorite pro team to have that albatross around. No, I mean, it's player dependent, and I get that too. And Carolina is only just now starting to have like good quarterbacks in the last 15 to 20 years. So I get that it's like a new exciting thing for them, and it's like the possibility that someone can play. So that's part of where that comes from, I think. But like,
and also Drake is not Sam, right? Like I think it is fair to, like, what bothered me about Sam Howell is it was so clear to me watching that he is a starting quarterback because of situation only, not because of talent. Drake May has the talent to be a starting quarterback in this league. It makes sense that a team is trusting him. It's not the same thing. Logically, I understand that. Emotionally, I cannot handle you Carolina fans telling me that everything would be perfect for the Panthers if only they had a UNC quarterback.
Mitch Trubisky could have been Drake May if he'd had like what
if
Drake
he had gone to a franchise that knew how to handle quarterbacks.
No, because this is the thing. It's like that thing Chuba has that you can't teach, and Drake has it, and Sam Howell has it, even though he doesn't have the talent of a Drake.
Sure.
That that killer instinct of like wanting to put your body on the line and just do whatever it takes, sometimes to your own detriment, for both of those quarterbacks, frankly. But like, you just like, you have like a killer instinct in a way that like, and I'm not trying to slight Trubisky. It's not like he did anything bad. It's just like, it is a skill. It is like something that sets them apart. And so I think that is one difference between them. But anyway, I mean, I think that for sure. I mean, everybody loves a good quarterback narrative game. For me, I just think it'll be interesting to see like how they stack up. I hope the Patriots defense sucks as much as ours, because otherwise it's certainly not going to be a fair fight for Bryce in that game. I don't know that any defense will suck quite as much, but we'll see. And so like, I think that for sure is a big one. Like for me with the must win though, it's a bigger picture thing of like, I think I've said this all year, all off season. I mean, like I really envision, like already I look at week 1 with nothing but dreaded fear, and not because the Jaguars are good. It's just because this team will always come out and disappoint you first. That's what they do. It's just like, it's become like an annual tradition.
Yeah.
So where and they will lose. And I've said this, I think they will probably beat some teams they're not supposed to.
Agreed.
And I think they will lose to some teams they're not supposed to. And so like for me, I think it's going to be more contextual in terms of their must wins. But
I think in terms of like the game as a measuring stick must win kind of thing, it is really disadvantageous, is that a word, that both of the Buccaneers games come so late, because I think the measuring stick in that case is literally if they had just a scintilla more of defense, they would have won that first game without going into overtime, right? And so what they can do against Baker Mayfield and the Buccaneers really is going to tell you, if you got them in week 1, 2, or 3, really is going to tell you how much the work they did to improve this defense mattered. And obviously we're not going to get that, at least at a time when everybody is healthy, to be able to evaluate that on a 1-for-1. And there are going to be other teams in there that in the schedule where we're going to be able to see the difference in the defense from 24 to 25. But I look at that first Buccaneers game, and to tie it all together with the Chuba Hubbard topic, like I don't even think we are talking about how could Chuba do this, or of all the times for Chuba Hubbard, like we're not even talking about that. If they could have made one more stop that any other defense in the league could have made. Yeah,
for sure. I mean, I do think like, and the Patriots, it is an interesting test too, because doesn't the Patriots O-line suck, or is that still a thing? So okay, you've revamped your pass rush a little bit. Like your secondary might still suck, TBD. But you also have like $100 million cornerback. So it's like, all right, like you should be able to get pressure in this quarterback. Like even if they lose, to me, I think that is an interesting game in that regard as well. For like
$100 million cornerback, $100 million cornerback, and a $75 million safety.
Yeah. Don't remind me. But yes, because it's like, we probably needed to spend some of that on the rest of the group, but it's okay.
Do you ever watch that Blueprint thing that the Panthers put out, like the behind the scenes show that they produce themselves on the website?
No.
Okay. So I only ever watch a full episode if it is, I mean, just being honest with you, I only ever watch a full episode if it is Bryce and Dave focused, like them working together. But I catch all of the clips on social, and there was a great clip that they put out, and I recommend everybody go check it out, of Dave Tepper, Dan Morgan, and 2, I think, scouts or youngest. I mean, like, these are young guys I don't recognize. And they are talking about if they were able to sign Bobby Brown, which they did, just what a like huge upside defensive line unit they would have, especially with Derek Brown coming back healthy. And they run down how young everybody is on that defensive line unit. And that was what it stood out to me, not just because, some of these guys, you and I were like, oh, okay, well, I haven't not really familiar with his game, but the stats look okay, blah, blah, blah.
I think I was probably a little higher on it than you because I do like the age thing as well. But
yeah. I mean, what struck me about it was that it was a great visual representation of how every single number played into whether or not it was worth signing a guy or not in Dan Morgan and Dave Tepper's mind. It was a really great way to look at how they evaluate what they needed to do to make the defense better and set the defense up for sustained success.
Yeah. And I think that's really, that is really interesting and informative too. But like, I think that is the way to go. I mean, look, we've seen how many teams get kind of like, you see TJ Watt holding out right now. And like all due respect to the ruiner of Cam Newton's career, not saying that with malice, like he was playing football. I'm not, it's all like, it's all good. Do I still think about that game? Yeah, obviously.
Did you hear Bomani's
yes,
like take
and I agree.
TJ Watt holding out? Like, yeah, all right. So we know you're working out somewhere else then.
Like, I mean, that's what happens when you get past a certain age at certain positions in this league. It's just that teams are going to be like, okay, bye. Like they're not. So I'm glad to see that. But some teams do get like sucked up into that. And they're like, oh, I'm going to overpay this guy because everybody loves the guy or whatever it is.
I think this is one of those things that I'm talking about our own fans, not just people from the outside looking in.
Sure.
We're getting sucked up in, oh, he's available, we should make a move, or the Steelers may be willing to cut bait, we should make a move. And like, I get it, he would instantly make the pass rush better, but how much are you paying for how many years of actually improving the pass rush versus taking up a roster spot and a significant portion of payroll? Don't forget that the Sports Podcast Festival is happening on August 23rd at the Rialto. I'll be there. Lauren will be there. The Joes will be there. And our friends Split Zone Duo and Big Screen Sports will be there. This is a great way to kick off the college football season each and every year. Also, some other stuff happening there. OG Light, our beer, will be on tap, courtesy of our friends at Auditory FX. The Butcher's Market food trailer will be out there serving food all day long. We're going to have all kinds of prizes to give away as well. There's a lot of fun stuff happening. Get your tickets now at therialto.com or etix.com for the second annual Sports Podcast Festival. So, Lauren, did you see that we are getting a Spanish language TV broadcast of the preseason games this year for the Carolina Panthers?
I didn't see that yet. I have been a fan of the Spanish language radio before because they started like tweeting all their calls during the 2015 season, and I just became obsessed. So.
Las Panteras. Yes, it was fantastic. The radio call. The Spanish language TV call is interesting to me. Because it is this company, Gray TV, that are making all of their Telemundo affiliates, all the stations they own that carry the Telemundo network, are going to carry Panthers games in Spanish. What is interesting to me about this, is that all the places that are getting this Spanish TV call, Raleigh isn't one of them, Charlotte isn't one of them. But it is stations across North and South Carolina, 6 in total. Not every team in the league does even a Spanish radio call, let alone preseason broadcasts. And the amount that Gray TV, not the Panthers, but Gray TV is investing in this. Carlos Ramirez is going to be on the play-by-play. He is called like the official Spanish language broadcast of the Super Bowl in the past. Clearly, there is a recognition of whether it is just Hispanic population or dedicated Spanish-speaking fans. There's a future in this, the Panthers see, and the people around the Panthers see as well. I think that's interesting just because, look, I mean, let's just talk about this as bluntly as we can. When you think about stereotypes of where the Hispanic population is, it is along the coast or the, the states touching rural Mexico. We are not one of those places.
Well, that's the stereotype, right? But I mean, we also know, I think those of us that live here know better, and we know that there's plenty around, and there's plenty that live in Raleigh and Charlotte as well.
Oh, sure, yeah, but Go ahead. Sorry. Yeah.
Well, I was gonna say, but I think you do see it more like in some rural areas where there's like, farm work to be done or what have you as well. And so maybe that's part of the rationale for like where I don't know what the rationale is about why they're having it, where they're having it. But.
To your point, one of the college football programs that has a thriving Spanish radio network is Nebraska. And like that probably does have to do with the kind of work that is done in Nebraska, right?
100%.
The Panthers one is interesting. You mentioned they have a great Spanish radio broadcast team, and that is actually owned by the Panthers, and the Panthers have done a lot to cultivate that. I think that there is a certain element of all these NFL owners have of what do we do now? Like, I don't know the family that has grown up in the United States forever, like can't even trace back when their family came over. Like the average, like, Joe Smith, white American. The NFL has reached critical mass with that audience now, right? But this is a business. You can't stop growing. So you try all these new things. And that's why we see international expansion in terms of games going to other places. That's why you see Spanish language broadcasts. I would not be surprised if in certain places we start to get other language broadcasts of the team. Like, do the 49ers at some point do one of the Asian language broadcasts, whatever's prominent, Japanese, Korean, Chinese? Do we get a French language broadcast at some point for a team like the Saints? I think this is where
it'd be Creole, right?
Yeah. French, not proper French. That's true. A Haitian Creole sort of mix. I think this is where fandom is left to be plucked inside of the United States, and I think you're going to see more teams doing this. And I would be surprised if by next season the Spanish language broadcast does not make its way to Charlotte and Raleigh as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think like it makes sense. The NFL's already given up on appealing to women. I'm just kidding. Kind of not entirely. But yeah, I mean, I think that is the next move, which, definitely makes things potentially interesting down the road if there's any pushback about that, with the way some elements seem to be going in our country. But I don't think we'll see that as much necessarily. Like, the NFL at the end of the day is like a business. I mean, and they want to make money. They want to maximize their profits. And so that's what I think we're going to see more and more of, for sure.
I would argue, and we'll move off of this in just a second. I'm fascinated by the long-term business implications of every team doing Spanish language TV and radio.
Yeah.
I wonder if at some point the NFL says that, all these teams have their marketing rights to their Asian and European countries. And I guess some teams have carve-outs in South America individually as well. But I wonder if at some point we get to the NFL saying, oh, and by the way, there is just going to be a game in Mexico every year, or there's going to be a game that serves Latin America. Maybe it'll be in Mexico. Maybe it'll be, one of the major soccer stadiums down in Colombia, Argentina, something like that. But I could see them really playing on everything they can, down to the same way they sort of do the empty gesture nod with the military appreciation apparel.
Yeah.
I could totally see like every team is going to have Sugar Skull edition jerseys.
Wearing the pink, obviously Sugar Skull jerseys. But it is like, you're right. Yeah. It's just like these gestures that most of us understand are like empty and hollow and whatever, but like they're gestures nonetheless. I would be somewhat surprised if they have a game in Mexico anytime soon, personally. Because I think everyone's afraid of upsetting, the head tweeter.
I think the NFL, and I say this with no ounce of irony or like facetiousness in my voice at all. I think the NFL believes that it deserves the same amount of respect as every other branch of the military. And how dare you try and dictate where and how our missions go. I think the NFL holds itself in enough regard that they think, and they could be totally wrong, I think they would be willing to test that. I just don't think the individuals are interested in testing that. That would be why I would say if it doesn't happen, it wouldn't happen. But I don't see why it wouldn't happen. I just don't see why it wouldn't happen. I think it would
all it'll take is him saying one thing, and all of a sudden it's canceled. I'm telling you. So that's why I think they don't bother. Maybe in 3 years or 4 years, whatever we're on now, maybe. But I would be really surprised. I'm just being honest because everything has become something he needs to weigh in on now, and businesses keep giving into him. So I don't know why this would be. I don't see that being any different, particularly since I think a lot of the owners probably are in line with like at least some of what he wants to do. So
I don't know if it was either Arizona or San Francisco that would do the game. I think that might have been what it was. It would always include either Arizona or San Francisco because I know the Raiders were a part of the game a lot.
Surprised it wouldn't have been LA.
Yeah, I mean, maybe when this started, LA, it was still before LA had a team, but it used to be a pretty regular thing that one Monday night football game would come to us from Aztec Stadium in Mexico City every year.
I remember that.
I think it's going to happen again sooner rather than later, and it's going to become an annual tradition. All right, Lauren, I want to wrap up. Again, we are in list season. CBS Sports put out their list of the top 25 moments of the NFL since 2000. And I found it interesting that not a single moment from Cam Newton is on there. And I found it interesting not because I thought it was completely egregious. I think that Cam Newton has had enough moments that there should be one that you could fit in 25 slots. But I found myself asking this. As Cam Newton rose to being like that MVP season in 2015, as he was on that ascent, there have been all these different times we have talked about a certain quarterback becoming the prototype for the quarterback of the future. And then their success ends up being the outlier. Right? Like,
yeah.
Like, we didn't see, or maybe I should say, like, there have been, I think Ben Roethlisberger is the guy, and granted, he came before Cam, but he's the guy that played the game closest to the way Cam did before we got, say, Josh Allen. Is that fair? You think? Like, big body could move. I think the difference is, like, Cam could move, right? And Josh Allen might be in that category as well.
Agree.
We haven't seen an overwhelming number of those guys, and we haven't seen the guys that do stand out just out-athlete everybody the way Cam was. So I look at it, I would say the same thing about, like, years in prison notwithstanding Michael Vick. Like, we just haven't seen a ton of dudes until Lamar Jackson that played and had success the same way. So I wonder if there not being a signature moment for Cam is just an oversight, or if it is a reflection of Cam was kind of one of one, and it's sort of hard to measure his moments against what we think of as stereotypical NFL play.
So 2 things for me. One, when I perused this list very briefly, because it was very difficult for me to finish, when I got to the Tim Tebow one. And I was like, what are we doing? Are you freaking kidding me? Like, was this a big moment for y'all who love him? Because, like, what are we doing? Like,
I want to point out to everybody, Lauren is saying that she perused it with no judgment until she got to the Tim Tebow one. Tim Tebow is number 24 on this list. So she had one moment of, like, pure just enjoyment.
I powered through, but after that, I was like, all right, now I stopped taking this as seriously because I just genuinely, and I'm not even trying to be a hater. Like, I understand that it had like its brief sensation moment in the sun or whatever, but I don't think it was as big a deal as they were making it out to be. And like, it ended up being nothing, and he was nothing in this league. So like, what are we even talking about?
Yeah.
I will say this, for the Cam of it all, because for the most part, I think like the rest of the moments were either like huge plays, and or like funny sound bites that we hear again and again and again. So which is
ridiculous. Yeah.
Well, I don't hate that, honestly, because like I certainly remember them, and I certainly remember hearing them a bunch. I remember when they first happened, even in some cases, which is wild, but like, so I get it. But like, my thing was with Cam was like, when you said that and pointed that out, like in the outline, and I was like, okay, but like, I know what moments are my personal favorite, but like what moments that if I could like rank a list or whatever, I can think of some of the bigger ones. But like, besides, for instance, like what is that? Like, you're right, he is one of one, so that's a part of it. But also, like, what is the signature Cam Newton moment? Like, what is the one moment besides obviously like the stupid crap about like we didn't dive on that fumble, because I need that to go away. But like,
I thought about, is that the signature moment? Because
oh please, I'm gonna be sick.
No, here's why. Hear me out. I don't know that anything, and when I say is that the signature moment, I mean, like, is that the one that people latch on to? Because I don't know that anything in the NFL has that like mass effect the way it does in the playoffs or a Super Bowl. And Cam had plenty of great games, but I can't think of a moment that is a, like, you could say is a snapshot like that one. Like, but that being said, so much of the moment sort of conversation is personal, right? Like how it impacted you. Like, one that I'm shocked is not on here is the Saints onside kick in that Super Bowl, just because it was such a surprising, like, oh man, I didn't expect them to roll the dice like that in a Super Bowl kind of moment.
Yeah, for
so
sure.
I don't know that there is a Cam moment where he looks good that makes sense for this list.
To quote one of the more iconic Real Housewives, I am the moment, honey. I am the moment. And like, Cam was the moment. Like, I don't want to even. Yeah, like you could. When I think of him, I think of the clothes. I think of the Superman. I think of the Tennessee mother concerned about the hip gyrations. I think of all. I think of the first down pointing. I think of like people him talking shit. Like, I just think of so many individual, like almost like clips playing in my head, that it's hard for me to like pinpoint one specific thing and go like, oh, that's my Cam moment. It just kind of like all lives together in like this like, blob in my head, so to speak. Obviously, like, there are certainly like iconic plays you can pick out and whatever, but like when I think of Cam, those are the things that come immediately to mind, like the outfits, the controversies over celebrations, all that kind of crap, people trying to headhunt him. Think about that too, sadly.
Do you remember in 2015 we are doing a radio show together, and we used to have Amani Toomer, the former Giant, was on NBC. We used to have him on occasionally. And do you remember, I don't know why I remember exactly what he said, but we were talking to him about, you know, the season Cam was having that year. That was the year that Cam won the MVP. And Amani brought up the fact that the biggest impact Cam is having on not just football, but on America right now at that moment was the dab. And he said, I remember this like it was yesterday. He said something to the effect of, Mike, our partner, Mike Naniscalco, said, yeah, but the dab is like something that everybody down here is doing right now. And Amani Toomer came back with, yeah, but Cam Newton is doing it when he scores NFL touchdowns. You people are doing it when you get a good deal on bananas, which I think is a good defense of maybe the dab is the Cam moment.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, because my kid still dabs. Like, I can't get him to watch a Panthers game, but he dabs. He tries to get me to dab. He loves to dab. And like, the dab has stayed with us. Does the dab stay with us without Cam? I don't know that it does, to be honest.
Does white America learn the dab without Cam?
That's the thing, and ruin it, right?
Yeah.
Without. So congrats, Cam.
Do we have a series of sweaters featuring Santa Claus dabbing every December, if not for Cam Newton?